On the night the Alpha Queen died, the palace did not hear mourning first. It heard screaming. Not from the king, not from the servants, from the newborn heirs. The cries were not soft, not weak. They were sharp, wild, like something wounded and angry at the world. They echoed through the stone halls and refused to stop. Queen Ava's body was still warm when the first twin began to scream, and he did not stop. Blood still stained the royal sheets, the scent of death mixed with milk and iron. Midwives trembled as they cleaned the room. One of them whispered that this was a bad sign. Another told her to shut up before the king heard. Alpha King Kurt Draven stood beside the bed like a statue carved from rage. His queen was pale, too pale, her silver hair spread across the pillow like moonlight that no longer shined. Her chest did not rise. Yet her fingers were cold. She had given him heirs and paid with her life. The second twin began crying minutes later, louder than the first, as if answering him, as if calling something back that was already gone. Kurt did not move toward them. He did not look at them. He looked at his dead mate. His jaw tightened, his fists clenched. The air around him grew heavy. Dominant scent rolled off him like a storm about to break. One of the healers stepped forward carefully. "My king, the pups need to be fed." Kurt did not answer. The cries became sharper. One pup kicked so hard the nurse almost dropped him. The other bit the cloth wrapped around his tiny body and growled, a newborn growling. The sound made the room colder. 3 minutes later, the palace heard something crash. Kurt had thrown a chair across the chamber. "Make them stop," he said. A voice low, not loud. Worse than loud. The healers rushed. They tried milk. They tried warmth. They tried singing old lullabies. Nothing worked. The twins cried like they were in pain no one could see. By midnight, servants whispered that maybe the heirs were cursed. By morning, no one had slept. The crying did not weaken. It grew stronger. It rolled through the palace like thunder trapped inside walls. Arya heard it from the servants' corridor. She was on her knees scrubbing marble floors that did not need scrubbing. Omegas did not question orders. They just worked. Head down, voice quiet. The first time she heard the scream, she froze. Her chest tightened. Not fear. Something else, like a string inside her ribs had been pulled too hard. She pressed her palm against her heart and tried to ignore it. Do not think about royal matters. Do not look toward royal halls. That was rule number 1 for someone like her. Arya was small, too quiet, too plain. Other Omegas said she had no proper scent. No sweetness, no pull. Even her wolf was soft. Weak. That is what they told her since childhood. She dipped the cloth back into water. The screaming did not stop. Hours passed. The crying turned hoarse, then angry, then desperate. Arya stood slowly. Her ears rang. Her wolf stirred under her skin, not in fear, not in excitement, in response, as if the sound was calling her. She shook her head. This is not your place. Upstairs, chaos continued. A new wet nurse arrived from another pack. Strong female, experienced. She walked in confident. 10 seconds later, she walked out with blood on her hand. The first twin had bitten her, hard. "He does not want milk," she said, shaking. "He does not want warmth. He does not want comfort." The second twin started howling again, a newborn howl. It made older wolves in the palace shiver. Kurt finally walked toward the cradle. The crying got louder. He stood over them. They screamed like they were fighting him. His scent rolled heavy into the room. Dominance, authority, alpha bloodline older than most kingdoms. The twins thrashed harder. One of them opened bright, storm-colored eyes. For a second, Kurt felt something break inside him. They had Ava's eyes. But when he reached out to touch one small cheek, the pup snapped at his finger. A warning growl came from a throat too small to hold that sound. The king pulled his hand back slowly. The room went silent for half a second. Then the crying exploded even worse. Kurt stepped back. Something was wrong. 3 days passed like this. No sleep, no peace. The kingdom outside the palace had started hearing rumors. The heirs cry without rest. The heirs reject everyone. The heirs cannot be touched. On the third night, Arya was sent to deliver clean linens to the royal wing. She kept her head low, always low. Her feet were quiet on the stone floor, but as she passed near the nursery, the screaming hit her again, harder than before. She stopped breathing. Her vision blurred for a second. Her wolf pushed forward, restless, not scared, urgent. One of the maids rushed past her. "They will drive us all mad," the maid whispered. "Even the king cannot calm them." Arya swallowed. She should walk away. She should finish her task. Instead, her feet turned. She moved toward the sound. Each step made her heart beat faster. The guards outside the nursery were distracted. One looked exhausted. The other leaned against the wall like he had not slept in days. No one stopped her. Inside, chaos again. 2 healers arguing, a nurse crying quietly. And in the center of the room, 2 tiny bodies screaming like their world had ended. Arya stood at the doorway. No one noticed her at first. The sound pierced through her skull. But beneath it, she felt something else. Not rage, loneliness. Her fingers trembled. Without thinking, she stepped forward. A healer turned sharply. "You cannot be here." But Arya was already closer. One twin kicked wildly in the cradle. His small fist hit the wooden side again and again. Arya looked at him. Really looked. His face was red, wet with tears, tiny chest moving too fast. Her own chest hurt. She did not ask permission. She reached out. The room seemed to freeze. Her hand hovered for 1 second over the screaming pup. Then she touched his forehead gently, soft, like she was afraid he would break. The scream cut off, just like that. Not slowly, not fading. Gone. The room dropped into silence so deep it felt heavy. The second twin still cried for half a breath. Then he turned his head toward Arya. She moved closer. She lifted the first twin carefully into her arms. He did not fight. He did not bite. He pressed his small face against her chest. The second twin made a small sound. Not a scream, a whimper. Arya reached for him too. The healer stared. The nurse's mouth hung open. As soon as the second twin touched her skin, he stopped crying as well. Complete silence. Only soft, newborn breathing. Arya swayed slightly on her feet without realizing. Like instinct. Like she had done this 1,000 times before. The twins relaxed. Tiny fingers curled into the fabric of her simple maid dress. One of them made a small content sound. The nursery doors opened behind her. Heavy footsteps entered. No one needed to announce him. The air shifted. Alpha King Kurt stepped inside. He stopped. He saw the Omega Maid holding both his heirs. He saw the silence. He saw their calm faces. For a long moment, no one moved. Kurt's eyes lifted slowly to Arya's face. She immediately lowered her gaze. Fear rushed through her now. She had crossed lines she should never cross. "I am sorry, my king," she whispered softly. "They were just crying." Kurt did not answer. He stepped closer. The twins did not scream. They did not growl. They did not fight. They stayed quiet. His jaw tightened. "What did you do?" he asked. Arya shook her head. "Nothing, my king. I just touched them." One twin shifted slightly in her arms. Kurt leaned closer. He inhaled. He expected to smell trickery, magic, something strange, but what he smelled was soft, warm, like rain after a long drought, like balance. The twin nearest him opened his storm-colored eyes again, but this time he did not snap. He simply looked at his father, then he turned his face back into Arya's chest and sighed. The sound broke something deep inside the king. The alpha heirs who rejected everyone, calm in the arms of a rejected Omega. The silence in the room was not peaceful. It was shocking. And Kurt Draven knew one thing in that moment. This was not normal, and it was not an accident. He straightened slowly. "You," he said, voice low. Arya's hands trembled slightly, but she did not drop the pups. Yes, my king. You will not leave this wing." Her heart skipped. "My king?" "You will stay," he said, "until I understand why my sons only breathe in your arms." Outside the nursery, whispers already began. The Omega Maid, the crying heirs, the silence. And somewhere deep inside Arya's chest, something ancient stirred. Not weak, not small, Waiting. 2. For 3 days the entire kingdom did not sleep. Not the guards, not the servants, not even the wolves outside the palace walls, because when the Alpha King's heirs cry, the sound travels far. But on the 4th morning, something changed. The crying stopped, and that silence scared them even more. Arya had not slept either. She sat near the window inside the royal nursery, both twins resting against her chest. One curled under her chin, the other clinging to the fabric of her dress like he was afraid she might disappear. Her arms ached, her back hurt, but she did not dare move. The first time she tried to hand one pup back to a nurse, the silence shattered. The scream came back instantly, sharp, angry, hurt. The nurse jumped back in fear. The second twin followed with his own cry. The sound shook the walls again. Arya quickly pulled them back into her arms. Silence returned. The room felt heavy. The healers looked at her differently now, not with kindness, with suspicion. One of them stepped closer, eyes narrow. "Do it again," he said. Arya blinked. "Do what?" "Let go." Her fingers tightened around the twins. She slowly lowered one twin into the cradle. The baby's face twisted. His tiny lips trembled. Then the scream tore out of him like pain. And before it could grow louder, Arya lifted him again. He quieted instantly. The healer inhaled sharply. "It is not coincidence," he whispered. No, it was not. By midday, the news had spread through the palace. The Omega Maid can calm them. The rejected one. The quiet one no one noticed. Some servants looked at her with awe, others with fear. Jealous whispers began crawling through the halls. Maybe she used magic. Maybe she cursed the heirs first so only she could calm them. Maybe she wants power. Arya heard none of it directly, but she felt it. The way people avoided her eyes, the way conversations stopped when she walked past. She kept her head low like always. She did not ask for this. She did not understand it. But every time the twins stirred in discomfort, something inside her chest answered before they even cried. And it felt like an invisible thread pulling between them. Late afternoon, the nursery doors opened. The room went silent. Alpha King Kurt entered alone. No guards, no advisors. Just him. He had not slept. Dark shadows rested under his eyes. His hair looked slightly disordered, but his presence was still powerful enough to press against every chest in the room. Everyone bowed. Arya tried to kneel, but she could not while holding both heirs. Kurt noticed. "Stay," he said. The word was simple, heavy. Arya froze in place. The twins shifted slightly at the sound of his voice. One of them opened his eyes and stared at his father. No crying, just quiet watching. Kurt stepped closer, slowly. He circled her once, studying. "You have no rank," he said quietly. "Yes, my king." "No strong scent," she swallowed. "No, my king." "No training." "No, my king." He stopped in front of her. "And yet my sons scream for everyone but you." She did not know what to answer, because she did not know why. "I do not understand it either," she whispered. For a long moment, he simply looked at her. His eyes were sharp, cold, measuring. Then one of the twins made a soft sound, not crying, almost a laugh. Kurt's gaze snapped down. The tiny boy reached one small hand toward Arya's neck and grabbed a loose strand of her hair. He tugged it, gently. The other twin pressed his face deeper against her chest, like he belonged there. Kurt felt something twist inside him. 3 days of rage, 3 days of helplessness, 3 days of hearing his heirs cry like they hated the world. And now this, peace, because of her. "Leave us," Kurt ordered suddenly. The healers hesitated. "My king, now." The room emptied quickly. Only Kurt, Arya, and the twins. Silence stretched. Arya could feel his gaze on her skin. It made her nervous, but not in the way other alphas made her nervous. This felt different, curious, dangerous. Kurt stepped closer, close enough that she could smell him clearly. Forest, steel, Storm. Dominance heavy in the air. The twins did not react badly. That alone shocked him. Usually they screamed louder when his scent filled the room. Now they stayed calm, because she was there. "Look at me," Kurt said quietly. Omegas were not supposed to, but something in his voice was not command. It was need. She lifted her eyes slowly. For the first time, their gazes met fully. Her eyes were not bright, not striking, soft brown, gentle, but there was something else there. Depth. Kurt inhaled slowly. Her scent was faint, too faint for a normal Omega. Yet when he focused harder, beneath the softness, there was something older, like earth after rain, like moonlight on water, subtle but steady. "Have you ever felt different?" he asked. Arya hesitated. "Yes," she whispered before she could stop herself. His eyes sharpened. "Explain." She shifted slightly, careful not to disturb the twins. "Sometimes," she said slowly, "I feel things before they happen." Kurt did not speak. "When they cry, I feel it here first." She pressed her palm lightly to her chest, like something pulling. The king watched her carefully. "You think they are pulling you?" She nodded once. He reached out suddenly, not to the twins, to her wrist. His fingers wrapped around it, warm, firm. A small spark shot up her arm. She gasped quietly. The twins stirred, and Kurt felt it too. A faint current under his skin. Not bond, not mate pull, but something that hummed. Ancient. He released her wrist slowly. Her heartbeat was fast. So was his. "This is not normal," he said. "I know, my king." He studied her again. "You will remain near them at all times." Her eyes widened slightly. "My duties have changed." His tone left no room for argument. The twins shifted again. The one on her left made a small, frustrated noise. Arya adjusted her hold automatically, softly humming without thinking. The sound was barely there, but it calmed the baby instantly. Kurt noticed. "You know that melody," he said quietly. She blinked. "I do not remember learning it. It just comes." He stared at her. "Because that melody, it was old, very old. His mother used to hum something similar before she died, and a memory he had buried." The nursery door knocked suddenly. An elder stepped inside. Old wolf, gray hair, sharp eyes. He bowed quickly. "My king, the council is concerned." "Of course they are." "They wish to know why a low Omega now holds the heirs." Kurt's jaw tightened. The elder looked at Arya like she was a problem or a threat. Arya lowered her gaze again. "I will speak to the council," Kurt said coldly. The elder hesitated. "There are whispers," he added, "of witch blood, of forbidden line." Kurt's eyes darkened. "Be careful with such words." The elder bowed deeper and left. Silence again. Arya's heart pounded harder now. She did not want trouble. She did not want attention. But the twins tightened their small fists in her dress as if claiming her. Kurt stepped toward the window. He looked out over his kingdom. He had lost his mate. He had nearly lost his sanity from their cries, and now fate places a fragile Omega between him and his heirs. It felt like mockery, or destiny. He turned back slowly. "What is your name?" he asked. She blinked in surprise. "Arya, my king." He repeated it quietly, as if testing how it felt. "Arya." The twins made soft breathing sounds, peaceful, alive. Kurt had not heard that sound from them before. He looked at her one more time, and something inside him whispered a truth he did not want to accept. This Omega was not placed here by accident, and whatever she carried inside her quiet body, it was waking up. 3. They said Omegas should never look an alpha in the eyes. Arya had lived by that rule her whole life. Head down, voice soft, do not stand out, do not be noticed. But now the entire palace was watching her, and she wished they were not. The nursery doors were no longer open to everyone. Guards stood outside at all times. Servants whispered when they passed. Some bowed to her now. Others turned their faces away. The twins were quiet again this morning, curled against her like small, warm shadows. Arya sat on the wide chair near the hearth. Firelight flickered across the walls. One pup slept with his cheek pressed to her collarbone. The other rested in the crook of her arm, tiny fingers wrapped around her thumb. She barely moved. She was afraid the moment she did, the crying would return. A soft knock came. She looked up quickly. Alpha King Kurt entered. He did not announce himself anymore. He just came, every few hours, as if checking that the silence was real. He stood at the doorway first, watching. The twins did not stir, and his eyes moved to Arya. She lowered her gaze immediately. "You have not left this room," he said. "No, my king. You have not eaten." She hesitated. "I am fine." That was not true. Her body felt weak. Her arms trembled when she thought no one noticed, but the twins needed her. Kurt stepped closer. "You will eat," he said firmly. "Yes, my king." He studied her face. There were faint shadows under her eyes, her lips slightly pale, and still she held his airs like they were the most precious thing in the world. He felt something uncomfortable in his chest. Not anger, something softer. It annoyed him. The twin near her chest stirred suddenly. His nose twitched. Kurt stiffened. Every time he moved too close before, they screamed. He stayed still. The pup opened his eyes slowly. Storm gray, just like his father. He looked up, at Arya first, and then slowly, towards Kurt. Silence. No crying. No snapping. The baby's tiny hand stretched outward, not toward Arya, toward Kurt. Arya felt it. She shifted carefully. "My king," she whispered. "He is reaching for you." Kurt did not move. He was afraid of hearing that scream again, but the small hand kept stretching, fingers opening and closing, waiting. Arya gently adjusted her hold. "Slowly," she murmured. Kurt stepped forward. One step, then another. The twins' fingers brushed his thumb. Nothing happened. No scream, no rejection, just a soft breath. Kurt swallowed. Very slowly, he allowed the tiny hand to wrap around his finger. The grip was weak, but real, alive. The other twin opened his eyes too. He did not cry either. They were calm, because she was there. Kurt looked at Arya. "You are the reason," he said quietly. Her heart skipped. "I do not know how, my king." His gaze sharpened slightly. "Have you ever been near royal blood before?" "No." "Any noble line?" She shook her head. "My parents were servants. Their parents, too." He watched her carefully. There was no lie in her scent, no shift in her breathing, just confusion and fear. The nursery door opened suddenly. An older she-wolf entered. Lady Morwen. High-born, proud, sharp eyes. She bowed, but not deeply. "My king." Kurt's expression hardened instantly. "What do you want?" "The council grows restless." "Of course they do." Morwen's gaze slid to Arya, cold, judging. "This situation is unnatural," she said softly. Arya lowered her eyes further. "The heirs cannot depend on a maid." "They depend on her," Kurt replied flatly. Morwen stepped closer to inspect. Her perfume was strong, sweet, heavy. At the twins shifted immediately, their tiny faces twisted. Arya felt it before they cried, a sharp tug inside her chest. "Please," she whispered, instinctively pulling them closer. Too late. The first scream broke out, loud, angry. The second twin followed instantly. The room filled with chaos again. Morwen stepped back in shock. "I did nothing," she snapped. Kurt's scent exploded into the air. "Enough!" Morwen retreated quickly. As soon as the door closed behind her, Arya began swaying gently. She did not think about it. She just moved, soft, back and forth. Her voice came out in a quiet hum, the same old melody. The crying weakened, then stopped. Kurt stared at her. "You feel it before they cry." She nodded slightly. "Yes." How? She hesitated. It hurts, she admitted softly. Where? She pressed her palm to her chest again. Here. Kurt stepped closer without thinking. His hand hovered over the place she touched. He did not touch her. Not yet. But he felt something. A pull. Faint. Almost like when a mate bond begins forming. But that was impossible. His mate was dead. Arya was an Omega. Low rank. Unremarkable. And yet his heirs only breathed peacefully in her arms. This is not magic, he muttered more to himself. Arya looked up slightly. I do not think it is either. He glanced at her. Then what is it? She swallowed. I think they are lonely. Kurt's jaw tightened. They are surrounded by servants. They are surrounded by scent that is not safe, she whispered, before she could stop herself. The room went still. She had overstepped. Her breath caught. I did not mean... Finish, Kurt ordered quietly. Her hands trembled slightly. They lost their mother the moment they were born, she said softly. Maybe they feel it. Kurt felt like someone had struck him. They are newborns. They are wolves, she replied, voice small but steady. Silence. Heavy. He could not deny it. The moment Ava's heartbeat stopped, something in the room changed. Even he felt it. The twins must have felt it too. Arya looked down at them. They are not angry, she murmured. They are searching. For what? For warmth that feels like home. Kurt's chest tightened painfully. And you are that home. She shook her head quickly. No, I am just here. But the twins tightened their grip on her again, as if proving otherwise. A sudden knock interrupted them. The elder from before entered again. He looked more serious this time. My king, he said carefully. The council demands testing. Kurt's eyes darkened. Testing. Yes, bloodline testing. Arya's heart stopped. Testing meant pain. It meant drawing blood. It meant public examination. The twins stirred restlessly as tension filled the room. Kurt's gaze flicked to Arya. Fear was clear in her scent now. The elder continued. There are records of rare Omega lines that react strongly to unstable Alpha heirs. Ancient balancing blood. Kurt's mind flashed back to the faint spark when he touched her wrist, to the old melody she hummed, to the way the twins only quieted with her. You believe she carries that blood, Kurt said slowly. The elder nodded. It would explain much. Arya felt the twins tighten in her arms again, as if they understood, as if they did not want her taken away. Kurt stepped forward, between Arya and the elder. No one will touch her, he said coldly. The elder hesitated. My king, this is for the stability of the realm. And my heirs are stable now. Because of her. Yes. Silence stretched. The elder bowed slowly. We will speak again. He left. The door shut. Arya exhaled shakily. Kurt turned toward her. You are afraid. Yes. He did not soften his voice. You will not be harmed. She blinked in surprise. You promised that. It was not a question. It was a command. He was not sure why he said it, but once spoken, he meant it. Arya nodded slowly. The twins relaxed again. One of them yawned, tiny mouth opening wide. Kurt watched that small movement like it was a miracle. 3 days ago he thought he would lose his mind from their screams. Now they slept peacefully, because of a quiet Omega who should not matter. He looked at her carefully, and for the first time, he did not see just a maid. He saw a mystery, and maybe something more dangerous, not to his throne, to his heart. Outside the nursery, whispers grew louder. Testing, ancient blood, balance. And inside the quiet room, Arya hummed softly, unaware that whatever slept in her blood was slowly waking, and once it did, the entire kingdom would feel it. 4. The room went quiet so fast it felt like time broke. Not the soft quiet of sleep, not the calm of peace, but the kind of silence that makes wolves hold their breath. The twins were asleep, deep asleep, for the first time since they were born. Arya sat by the window again. Morning light slipped across the stone floor. Dust moved gently in the air. One twin rested against her chest. The other lay across her lap, tiny hands still gripping her dress. Their breathing was slow, uneven, safe. Outside the nursery doors, guards whispered to each other. Inside, Alpha King Kurt had not moved for several minutes. He stood a few steps away from her, watching, studying, trying to understand something that refused to make sense. "You are not tired," he said suddenly. Arya blinked. "I am, my king." "You should be shaking. Most Omegas would collapse by now." She hesitated. "I feel tired," she admitted, "but when they are calm, I feel strong." Kurt's eyes narrowed slightly. "Strong." "Yes." She did not know how to explain it better. It was true. When the twins cried, her chest burned, her limbs felt heavy, her head spun. But when they were quiet, something warm filled her veins, like light spreading slowly. He stepped closer again. He was close enough now that his shadow touched her feet. She did not look up this time. She felt him watching her face. "Look at me," he said. She lifted her gaze. This time she did not look away so quickly. He noticed. There was fear in her eyes, but also something else. Steadiness. "You are not lying," he said quietly. "No, my king. You do not know what you are." The words hung between them. Her heart thudded softly. "I am just an Omega." He stared at her for a long moment. "No," he said, "you are not." The air shifted. The twin in her lap stirred slightly. Kurt froze instinctively. Arya placed her hand gently on the baby's back. Soft, without thinking. The twin sighed and settled again. Kurt exhaled slowly. "I have seen warriors who could not control their wolves," he said. "I have seen alphas break bones with their rage, but I have never seen newborn heirs react like this." He moved even closer, and close enough that she could feel the heat of his body. "And I have never seen them trust someone so quickly." Arya swallowed. "They do not trust me because I am strong." "Then why?" She hesitated. "I do not fight them." His brow furrowed slightly. "Explain." "When they cry," she said softly, "everyone tries to stop it. They push scent. They force comfort. They command silence." She looked down at the twins. "I do not command them. I just listen." The words were simple, but they hit something inside him. Kurt had spent his whole life commanding, dominating, controlling. Even grief he tried to crush under strength, and yet his sons rejected all of it. Until her. He stepped back slightly, as if needing space to think. The nursery door opened quietly. The elder returned. This time he did not come alone. Two other council wolves stood behind him, all older, all powerful. They bowed. "My king." Kurt did not bow back. "What now?" The elder's gaze flicked toward Arya, then to the sleeping twins. His expression changed slightly. They were truly calm. "This cannot continue without answers," the elder said. Kurt's voice cooled instantly. "They are not screaming. That is not the concern." Arya's stomach tightened. The elder stepped forward carefully. "There are old records," he continued, "about Omega lines that were hidden after the Great War, bloodlines that were not weak." Kurt said nothing. "They were created," the elder said quietly, "to balance unstable alpha heirs." Arya's fingers tightened unconsciously. The twins shifted slightly. Kurt noticed. "Speak clearly," he ordered. The elder nodded. "These Omegas carried ancient lunar blood. Oh, they did not dominate. They did not overpower. They absorbed." "Absorbed what?" "Chaos." The word hung heavy. Kurt's gaze flicked slowly to Arya. She looked confused, afraid, but not guilty. Unstable heirs often react violently to strong dominance, the elder continued, but when near a balancing blood, their inner wolf settles. Kurt looked at his sons. They were not violent now, not restless, just quiet, alive. You are saying she was born for this, Kurt said. The elder hesitated. It is possible. Arya felt like the ground had shifted under her. I was not born for royalty, she whispered. No one answered her. One of the other council wolves stepped forward. If this is true, she should be tested immediately. The word struck again. Tested. Arya's heartbeat sped up. The twin against her chest shifted suddenly. His tiny face twisted. Kurt noticed. So did the elder. Fear rolled off Arya's scent. The baby began to whimper, soft at first, then louder. The second twin followed. Kurt felt anger rise instantly. Enough, he growled. The council wolves stepped back. As soon as the tension lowered, Arya began humming again. The melody flowed naturally, not forced. The crying faded. The room returned to silence. The elder's face went pale. You see, he whispered. Kurt's jaw tightened. I see that my sons do not like being threatened. We did not threaten. You brought fear into this room. Silence fell again. The council wolves bowed slightly. My king, the stability of the realm, is my responsibility. Kurt stepped in front of Arya now, blocking her from them. The gesture was subtle, but powerful. She remains under my protection, he said coldly. The elder studied him carefully. And if she is truly of that blood, then she remains under my protection, Kurt repeated. The council understood the message. They bowed deeper. We will wait. They left. The door closed. Arya exhaled slowly. Her hands trembled now. The twins slept again. Kurt turned toward her. You are shaking. I did not mean to cause trouble, she whispered. You did not. He stepped closer, very slowly. He reached toward her wrist again. This time he did not hesitate. His fingers wrapped around it gently. Her breath caught. The spark came again, stronger this time. It was not painful. It was not aggressive. It was warm, like two currents touching. The twins stirred slightly, but they did not cry. Kurt's eyes darkened. He could feel it clearly now, something ancient, something woven deep. Oh, you feel that too, he said quietly. She nodded once. Yes. What does it feel like? She searched for words. Like I am not alone. The words were soft, but they struck him harder than any insult. He released her wrist slowly. He should step away. He should create distance. His mate had died only days ago. He had sworn loyalty, sworn love. And yet, standing this close to Arya, something inside him responded. Not passion, not desire, something deeper. Recognition. Dangerous. He stepped back abruptly. This changes nothing, he said sharply. Arya lowered her eyes again. Yes, my king. But it did change something. He felt it. In the way the twins slept peacefully. In the way the room no longer felt heavy. In the way her presence eased a pain he refused to name. Kurt looked at his heirs, then at the Omega, who held them like they were her own. The kingdom believed she was weak, insignificant, replaceable. But if she truly carried balancing blood, if her existence was tied to his sons, then she was no longer small, and that would make her a target. Outside, rumors were spreading faster now. Ancient Omega line, hidden power, royal protection. Inside the nursery, Arya hummed softly again, unaware that the quiet life she once had was already gone, and that the Alpha King was beginning to realize something even more dangerous. The silence she brought did not only calm his sons, it calmed him too. 5. The Alpha King had buried his heart with his queen, or at least he believed he had. The night Ava died, something inside him shut down, not slowly, not gently. It broke, and he locked the pieces away where no one could touch them. Yet he had no time for grief. He had heirs to protect, a kingdom to lead, enemies who would smell weakness from miles away. But now, every time he walked into the nursery, he saw something that disturbed his control: peace. And she was the reason. Arya sat near the hearth again. The twins rested against her like they belonged there. One had his tiny fist tangled in her hair. The other pressed his face against her neck. She looked smaller these days, not in body, in presence, as if she was trying to shrink under the weight of attention. Kurt stood by the door watching her. She did not notice him at first. She was whispering something softly to the twins, not words he could fully hear, just soft sounds, warm, gentle. The firelight danced across her face. She did not look powerful. She did not look magical. She looked like a simple Omega. So why did his sons breathe easier in her arms than in his? He stepped forward. She felt it this time. Her head lifted quickly. "My king." Her voice was soft as always. "You have not slept again," he said. She shook her head slightly. "They wake if I move too much. You are not their mother." The words came out sharper than he intended. She flinched slightly. "I know." Silence settled. The twins stirred at the tension. Arya adjusted them instinctively. The smaller twin made a soft, unhappy sound. Kurt's jaw tightened. "You should not grow attached," he said suddenly. Her fingers paused for half a second. "I try not to," she whispered. He stepped closer. "But you are." She did not answer. Because she was. It was impossible not to. They had cried like the world was ending, and she had felt it inside her bones. How could she not care? Kurt crouched slightly so he was closer to her level. "You will remember your place," he said quietly. The words were cold, but there was something behind them. Fear. Not of her, of himself. She nodded quickly. "Yes, my king." The twins made soft breathing sounds. Peaceful. Alive. Kurt looked at them, then at her, and he felt something dangerous rise in his chest. Jealousy. It shocked him. He had never been jealous of an Omega, never questioned his authority. And yet when he saw how naturally his sons curled into her, how they sought her warmth, something sharp twisted inside him. They should seek him. He was their father. He stood abruptly. "Give me one," he ordered. Arya blinked in surprise. "My king? One of them." Her heart jumped. Carefully, very carefully, she lifted the twin who was lighter in her arms. She held him out. At the baby's face scrunched slightly as he left her warmth. Kurt took him. His large hands looked almost too big around the tiny body. For a second, nothing happened. The twin blinked up at him, storm-gray eyes, just like his own. Kurt's throat tightened. The baby's tiny hand reached up slowly, touched his beard, pulled, not hard, just curious. No crying, no screaming. Kurt exhaled slowly. Behind him, Arya watched carefully. She was ready to step forward if the crying began, but it did not. The twin simply stared at his father. Calm, because she was still in the room. Kurt understood that truth immediately. If she left, the peace would shatter. He looked at her again. "You are not to leave this wing without my permission." "Yes, my king. You will sleep here." Her eyes widened slightly. "In the nursery?" "In the adjoining chamber." She hesitated. "Is that proper?" His gaze sharpened. "Do you question me?" "No." He studied her face for a moment. "You are safer near them." The words came out low, protective. She noticed. He noticed that she noticed. Silence stretched again. A knock came at the door. Before Kurt could answer, Lady Morwen entered again. Her eyes immediately landed on the sight before her. The king holding a twin. Calm. Arya standing close. Too close. Her lips tightened. "My king," she said smoothly. "The nobles request audience." "I am occupied." Morwen's gaze slid to Arya. "With a maid." The temperature in the room dropped. Kurt's scent thickened instantly. "She is here because my sons require her." Morwen stepped closer. "Or because you require her." The accusation hung heavy. Arya's heart pounded loudly in her ears. She lowered her gaze. "I am nothing," she whispered. "Please do not argue because of me." Morwen's eyes flashed slightly. "You see, even she knows her place." The twin in Kurt's arms shifted suddenly. A small, unhappy sound escaped him. Arya felt it immediately. She stepped forward without thinking. "My king?" she whispered softly. He hesitated, then handed the baby back. The moment the twin touched her chest again, he relaxed fully. Morwen saw it, and jealousy burned in her eyes. "This is unnatural," she hissed. "No," Kurt said coldly. "It is necessary." Morwen's jaw tightened. There are noble daughters who would gladly assist the heirs. They have tried, and failed. The silence after that was sharp. Morwen bowed stiffly. "So this will not be accepted easily." "I did not ask for acceptance." She turned and left. The door shut hard behind her. Arya's hands trembled slightly now. "I did not mean to cause division." "You did not," Kurt replied, "but they will blame me." "Yes," she swallowed. "Then perhaps I should leave." The words made something snap inside him. "No." It came out stronger than he expected. The twins stirred slightly at his tone. He forced himself to calm. "You leave," he said quieter, "and the crying returns." "That is not the only reason." Her voice was barely above a whisper. He looked at her sharply. "What else?" She hesitated, then shook her head. "Nothing." But he knew there was more. He stepped closer again, close enough to feel the warmth of her body. "You think they will hurt you?" She did not answer, which was answer enough. Yet his jaw tightened. "No one will touch you." Her eyes lifted slowly. "Why?" The question was innocent, honest, and dangerous. He held her gaze for a long moment. "Because I cannot lose another thing that keeps my world steady." But he did not say that. Instead, he said, "Because you are under my protection." The words echoed in the room, not as command, as promise. Arya felt her chest tighten, not with fear, with something softer. The twins slept again, peaceful. Outside the nursery, whispers grew darker. The king favors the Omega, the heirs choose her, the council waits. And inside the quiet chamber, Kurt realized something he did not want to admit. He had buried his heart with his queen, but something inside it was beginning to wake, and it woke every time she looked at him. 6. Some secrets do not stay buried. They rise slowly. Like smoke through stone, like truth through blood. By the 6th night, the palace had changed. Guards stood closer to the nursery doors. Servants walked faster when Arya passed. Some bowed now. Some refused to even look at her. She felt the shift. She hated it. She had never wanted to be seen. Now she could not hide. The twins were stronger today. Their cries were rare now, short, sharp, and only when she was too far from them. Arya sat on the floor beside the low cradle. One twin lay on a soft blanket in front of her. The other rested against her chest. She was humming again. That same melody. It came to her without thinking, like it had always lived inside her. The door opened quietly. Kurt stepped in. He did not interrupt her this time. He simply listened. The melody tugged at something deep in his memory, not from his mate. From older days, from his grandmother. She used to hum something similar when storms hit the mountains. He had not thought about that in years. "Where did you learn that?" he asked quietly. Arya looked up. "I do not know." "That is not possible." She frowned slightly. "I remember hearing it when I was small, maybe from my mother." "Your mother is dead." "Yes." "How did she die?" The question was sudden. Arya blinked. "She fell sick," she said slowly. "High fever. The healers could not stop it." "How old were you?" 7. He studied her face carefully. "Did she ever speak of our kingdom?" She shook her head. "No." "Did she ever say your blood was different?" Arya hesitated. Her fingers tightened slightly around the twin against her chest. She used to say I should never let anyone see my wrist. Kurt's eyes sharpened instantly. Oh, why? She said it would bring trouble. Show me. Arya froze. Her heartbeat quickened. Show me, he repeated. Slowly, carefully, she shifted the twin into one arm. With trembling fingers, she pulled back the loose sleeve of her dress. Her wrist was pale, but just above the vein, faint and almost invisible, was a silver line. It curved gently, like a crescent moon. Kurt's breath stilled. He stepped closer. Has it always been there? Yes. Does it glow? She swallowed. Sometimes. When? When they cry. The room went silent. The twin in her arms stirred slightly. The other one on the blanket began to fuss, not loudly, just restless. Kurt looked down. The silver line on her wrist shimmered faintly, barely there, but real. He reached out slowly. His fingers brushed the mark. Warmth spread instantly. Not heat, not pain, warmth. The twin on the blanket stopped fussing immediately. Kurt pulled his hand back sharply. Arya gasped softly. You feel that, he said. Yes? His mind raced. Ancient balancing line. Lunar marked omegas. Hidden after the Great War. His grandmother once told him a story when he was young, about a bloodline that carried the moon in their veins. They were not warriors. They were not leaders. But without them, unstable heirs often destroyed themselves. He had thought it was only legend. You were hidden, he muttered. Arya blinked. I was nothing. No, he said quietly. You were protected. A knock came at the door. Before he could answer, the elder entered again. This time alone. His sharp eyes immediately caught the exposed wrist. He stepped forward slowly. You have seen it. Kurt did not move. Yes. The elder's expression darkened. It is true then. Arya felt fear rise in her chest. The twin against her began to squirm slightly. She pulled her sleeve down quickly. I do not want this, she whispered. The elder looked at her differently now. Not with suspicion, with calculation. You do not choose blood, he said. Kurt's voice dropped lower. She will not be paraded before the council. She must be acknowledged. She must be protected, Kurt corrected. The elder studied him. You are already too involved. Kurt's eyes flashed. She keeps my sons alive. She balances them. And that balance ties her to this throne. The words hung heavy. Arya's heart pounded harder. I do not want a throne, she said quickly. No one asks what you want, the elder replied. Kurt stepped forward slightly. That is enough. Silence. The elder bowed his head. There are records in the old archives, about her line, about the mark. Bring them to me, Kurt ordered. And the council. We'll wait. The elder hesitated. You cannot keep this secret forever. Kurt's jaw tightened. I do not intend to. The elder left. The door shut. Arya felt like the room was spinning. I am sorry, she whispered. For what? For being trouble. He stared at her. You are not trouble. She looked up slowly. Then what am I? The question was small, vulnerable. He did not answer immediately. He looked at the twins, calm, breathing steady, then at the faint place on her sleeve where the mark hid. You are necessary, he said finally. The word changed something. Necessary meant she could not be discarded. Necessary meant she mattered. She did not know whether that comforted her or frightened her more. And the twin on the blanket began to push himself up slightly. Stronger now. Too strong for his age. Kurt noticed. They are growing fast. Yes, too fast. She nodded slowly. When they are near me, they settle. But when I'm gone, they become restless. Yes. Kurt stepped closer again. If something happens to you. The sentence did not finish. It did not need to. She understood. So nothing will happen, she whispered. His eyes locked onto hers. For a moment, neither looked away. The air felt thick, charged. The twins made soft, sleepy sounds. The silver mark beneath her sleeve shimmered faintly again. Kurt felt it. The pull. Not like a mate bond, not yet, but something was weaving, slowly. Outside, rumors were no longer whispers. The Omega carries moon blood. The heirs are bound to her. The king protects her. And somewhere deep in the palace shadows, those who desired power began to watch more closely, because ancient blood was not just valuable, it was dangerous. And if Arya truly carried balance in her veins, then she could either save the kingdom or reshape it, without even meaning to. 7. The night the twins called her Mama by mistake, the palace did not breathe. It happened softly, not during chaos, not during fear, but in the quiet. The nursery was warm that night. Rain tapped lightly against the high windows. Fire crackled low in the hearth. The air smelled of milk and clean linen. Arya sat on the edge of the large bed in the adjoining chamber. The twins were no longer confined to the cradle. They moved more now, stronger than pups their age should be. One crawled across the blankets toward her, determined, focused, and the other clung to her leg. They were restless tonight, not crying, just searching. She reached down and lifted the one at her ankle. "You will fall," she whispered gently. Her voice was soft, always soft. The pup placed both small hands on her cheeks. He stared at her with those storm-gray eyes, studying, as if memorizing her face. Kurt stood near the window. He had been coming more often at night. He told himself it was to observe the heirs. That was the reason. Not her. Never her. The rain covered most small sounds, but not the next one. The twin in her arms opened his mouth. "Ma." The sound was broken, clumsy. Arya smiled slightly. "You are learning new sounds." The second twin crawled into her lap. He pressed his face against her chest. "Mama?" Clearer. Not perfect, but clear enough. The room froze. Arya stopped breathing. Now Kurt turned slowly. The twin repeated it. "Mama!" Not calling for the dead queen, calling for the warmth holding him, calling for her. Arya's heart cracked open in her chest. She shook her head slightly. "No," she whispered softly. "I am not—" "Mama!" the first twin said again. Kurt moved before he realized he was moving. His steps were heavy, controlled, dangerous. The twins did not notice. They were focused on her. "Mama." The word echoed in the room like something forbidden. Arya looked up slowly. She met Kurt's eyes. There was something dark in them, not rage, something worse, pain. She quickly lowered her gaze. "I did not teach them that," she said quickly. "I would never—" He stepped closer. "You would never what?" "Replace her." Silence filled the space between them. The rain grew heavier outside. Kurt's jaw tightened. "Oh, my queen is dead," he said low. "I know. They do not." Arya swallowed. "They feel absence," she whispered. The twin touched her cheek again. "Mama!" Kurt's control snapped. "Enough!" The word hit like thunder. The twins startled. One whimpered. Arya immediately pulled them closer. "It is not their fault," she said quickly. His scent thickened. Dominant. Sharp. "They will not call you that." She looked up slowly. There was fire in his eyes now. "And what should they call the one who keeps them breathing?" she asked, before she could stop herself. The question shocked even her. Silence crashed down. Kurt stared at her. No one had ever spoken to him like that. Not in this tone. Not with that quiet strength. The twins pressed into her. They could feel the tension. Kurt stepped even closer, close enough that she could feel the heat of him. "You forget your place," he said. Her chin trembled slightly. "I remember it every moment." "Then act like it." The words were harsh, but his eyes were not entirely cruel. They were conflicted, broken. The twin in her arms reached toward Kurt, small fingers opening. "Mama," he said again, then looked at Kurt. "Pa." It was unfinished, but enough. The air changed. Kurt felt something inside him crack. The pup was not choosing between them. He was claiming both. Arya's eyes softened. "They are not replacing her," she whispered. "They are surviving." Kurt turned away sharply. He walked a few steps toward the hearth. His shoulders were tense. He had buried his grief under duty, under control, under command. But hearing that word from their mouths reopened something raw. He did not want them confused. He did not want them thinking the first warmth they found was permanent. He did not want himself thinking that either. Behind him, Arya shifted. She placed the twins gently onto the bed. They crawled back toward her immediately, clinging. She hesitated. Then she did something careful, something respectful. She leaned down and kissed each small forehead. "You will call me Arya," she said softly. The twins blinked. They did not understand. They only understood warmth, safety. She looked toward Kurt again. "I will not take what is not mine." His back was still to her. "And what do you think is yours?" he asked quietly. She did not answer right away. The rain slowed outside. The fire popped softly. "My place is where you say it is," she whispered. The words were obedient, but something beneath them was not small anymore. He turned slowly, and his eyes found hers again. "You are not small," he said. She blinked. "You do not know that," she replied. "I do." He stepped toward her again. The space between them felt thinner now. The twins crawled closer together on the bed, watching, quiet. "If you leave," Kurt said low, "they break." She knew it was true. "And if I stay," she whispered, "they attach. They already have." Silence. Heavy. The truth sat between them like a living thing. He reached out suddenly, not to grab, not to command. His fingers brushed her cheek lightly. The contact was brief, but it sent that same warm current through both of them. Her breath caught. The twins stirred, but did not cry. Kurt pulled his hand back as if burned. "This cannot become something else," he said. She understood what he meant. He had a dead queen, a kingdom watching, a council waiting, and she was only an Omega with a hidden mark. "I know," she whispered, but her voice was softer now, not afraid, just honest. The first twin yawned widely. The second leaned against his brother, sleep pulling them under. Arya adjusted the blankets over them, gentle, careful. Kurt watched her hands. How steady they were, how natural. He had thought his heart was buried, but something inside it was shifting, slowly, dangerously. The twins fell asleep, peaceful, no crying, no chaos. Arya sat beside them on the bed. She did not move away. Kurt stood there a moment longer, then he spoke quietly. "They will not call you Mama in public." She nodded. "Yes, my king." "But," he added after a pause, "if they do in private, you will not correct them." Her eyes lifted slowly. There was no anger in his face now, only tired honesty. Yet she nodded once more. The rain outside faded completely. The room was warm, still, and for the first time since his queen died, Kurt did not feel like he was standing in a room full of ghosts, because the silence was no longer heavy. It was alive, and he knew one thing with growing certainty. The danger was no longer just in her blood. It was in the way his heart no longer resisted her presence. 8. The palace started to hate her quietly, not with open attacks, not with loud accusations, with looks, with whispers that stopped when she walked past, with smiles that were too sharp. Arya felt it the moment she stepped outside the nursery for the first time in days. Kurt had ordered her to take fresh air. She did not argue. But the moment she entered the inner courtyard, conversation shifted. Noble she-wolves stood near the fountain. Their dresses fine, their scents strong and sweet. They all turned to look at her, the Omega Maid, the one who held the airs. Arya kept her head down. She moved quickly toward the shaded garden path, but the whispers followed. "She thinks she is Luna already. She used a spell. No Omega calms twin heirs like that. She is manipulating the king." The words hit softly, but they stacked, heavy. Arya's hands trembled slightly. She did not cry. She had learned long ago that tears only made things worse. Inside the nursery, the twins were restless. They could feel distance, even if they did not understand it. The moment Arya stepped too far from the wing, the first twin began to fuss, not screaming, but uncomfortable. Kurt noticed immediately. He stood near the cradle, watching. The second twin kicked his blanket away, small, frustrated sounds escaping him. "Where is she?" Kurt asked sharply. A maid bowed. "She went to the courtyard, my king." The first twin's face twisted. Then the cry came, sharp, sudden. Kurt's chest tightened. The second twin followed instantly. The room filled with that familiar chaos, not as wild as before, but urgent. Kurt's jaw clenched. "Bring her back!" Outside, Arya had barely reached the far archway when she felt it. A sudden tightness in her chest, like something pulling. Hard. Her breath caught. She did not need to hear the cry. She felt it. "They need me," she whispered to herself. She turned quickly, but Lady Morwen stepped into her path. "Going somewhere?" Morwen asked smoothly. Arya stopped. "I must return." "Already?" Her tone was sweet, poisoned. "You barely lasted 5 minutes." Arya tried to step around her. Morwen moved with her, blocking. "You should know your place," Morwen continued softly. "You are tolerated, not accepted." Arya swallowed. "I never asked to be accepted, but you are taking what does not belong to you." "I am not taking anything." Morwen leaned closer. "Then why does the king look at you differently?" The question hit harder than the insult. Arya's heart skipped. "He does not." Morwen smiled thinly. "You are naive." Before Arya could answer, the cry reached the courtyard. Faint, but clear. Morwen's smile faded. Arya's chest burned. She stepped past her without asking permission. "I must go." Morwen grabbed her wrist suddenly. The silver mark beneath her sleeve flared faintly. Morwen gasped softly. "What are you?" Arya pulled her hand free. "I do not know." She ran. Inside the nursery, the twins were in full distress now. Kurt tried to hold one. The baby screamed in his arms. The second thrashed against the nurse. Kurt's scent filled the room. Dominant, powerful. But it did not soothe them. It made it worse. The door burst open. Arya entered, breathing hard. The moment she crossed the threshold, the first twin turned his head toward her. His scream broke mid-breath. She rushed forward. Kurt handed the baby to her instantly. The second twin reached out toward her desperately. Within seconds, silence returned. Heavy, complete. The nurse stepped back slowly. Kurt stared at her. "You left." "I'm sorry." "You felt it." "Yes." He studied her face carefully, then noticed her wrist. "Who touched you?" Her breath caught. "No one." His eyes darkened. "You lie poorly." She hesitated. "Lady Morwen." The temperature in the room dropped. She grabbed you." "Yes." "Why?" She was speaking. "About what?" "About place." The word carried more weight than the rest. Kurt's jaw tightened dangerously. The twins were calm again, one pressing into her shoulder, the other curling into her lap. They clung harder now, as if afraid she would disappear again. Kurt stepped closer. He took her wrist gently, lifted the sleeve slightly. The silver crescent shimmered faintly. "It reacted," he said. "Yes. To fear." She nodded. His expression changed. Protective, cold. "No one touches you without my permission." Her heart skipped. "My king, it is not necessary to—" "It is." His voice left no room for argument. The door opened again. This time Morwen entered, bold, uninvited. "My king," she said smoothly, "the council requests—" "You touched her." Morwen froze, and her composure cracked slightly. "I only stopped her to speak." "You grabbed her." "She ran from me." The twins stirred slightly at the tension. Arya began humming immediately, soft, steady. They calmed. Morwen watched the scene. jealousy burning in her eyes. "This attachment is unhealthy," she said sharply. "They will depend on her too much." "They already do," Kurt replied. "And when she fails—" "She will not." Morwen stepped closer. "You trust her that much?" Kurt did not hesitate. "Yes." The word struck harder than a shout. Arya looked up at him in shock. Morwen's face paled. "This is dangerous." Kurt's gaze turned icy. "Dangerous is undermining the stability of my heirs." Morwen bowed stiffly. "You are blinded. Leave." Her lips pressed thin, but she left. The door shut. Silence remained. Arya's hands were shaking now, not from fear, from pressure. "I am causing division," she whispered. Kurt stepped closer again. "You are revealing it." She looked confused. "The division was already here," he said. "You simply exposed it." The twins yawned softly, sleep pulling them under. Arya placed them gently into the cradle. They did not cry. They did not resist. They simply watched her until their eyes closed. Kurt watched her too. "You cannot walk alone anymore," he said. "That will cause more whispers." "Let them whisper." She looked up slowly. "You do not care." He held her gaze. "I care about what matters." The words were heavy, personal. She looked away first, because something inside her chest felt too warm, too dangerous. Outside the nursery, the palace buzzed with new rumors. The king protects her openly. The heirs cry when she leaves. Her mark glows. And inside the quiet chamber, Kurt realized something else. The more they tried to push her down, the more clearly he saw her rise, and the more his kingdom resisted her presence, the more certain he became. She was not a passing storm. She was becoming part of the foundation. 9. When the Alpha King finally touched her skin without hesitation, the air changed. Not in anger, not in command, in awareness. It was late. The palace had grown quiet. Most lights were dim. Guards stood at a distance. Even the whispers had softened for the night. The twins were asleep, peaceful. Arya sat beside their cradle, her fingers resting lightly on the wooden edge. She was tired, more than she allowed anyone to see. Her shoulders ached, her head felt heavy, but she did not move. Kurt stood across the room near the hearth, watching. He had been watching her for several minutes. She did not notice, or maybe she did and pretended not to. The fire cast warm shadows across her face. She looked fragile in the quiet. But he knew better now. Fragile things did not hold his heirs together. "You are fading," he said suddenly. She blinked slowly. "My king." "You are pale." "I am fine." He stepped closer. "You always say that." She tried to smile slightly. "Because it is easier." His jaw tightened. "Easier for who?" She did not answer. The twins shifted slightly in their sleep. Arya immediately leaned closer to them, soft hum escaping her lips. They settled again. Kurt felt that familiar pull in his chest, not from the heirs, from her. He moved before he thought. He stopped in front of her. "Stand." She hesitated. "My king?" "Stand." Carefully she rose. Her legs trembled slightly. He noticed. "You have not eaten enough." "I do not feel hunger." "That is not normal." She looked away. "Nothing about this is normal." Silence stretched. He reached out slowly, not grabbing, not commanding. His fingers brushed her arm, just above her wrist, skin to skin. The silver mark beneath her sleeve shimmered faintly. The moment contact happened, that warmth surged between them again. Stronger, clearer. Arya gasped softly. Her hand instinctively reached for his wrist, not to push away, to steady herself. The twins stirred in their sleep, but they did not cry. They did not grow restless. Instead, their breathing deepened, as if whatever moved between the two adults soothed them too. Kurt's breath grew slower. He felt it clearly now. This was not only her balancing the heirs. This was something weaving around all three of them. He should pull away. He should step back. but he did not. "Look at me," he said quietly. She did. Her brown eyes were wide, not scared, overwhelmed. "You feel that?" he said. "Yes." "What does it feel like?" She swallowed. "Like I am being seen." The honesty in her voice hit him harder than he expected. He had lost his mate, lost the only woman who had ever stood beside him without fear. He had convinced himself that part of his life was buried forever. Yet standing here, feeling that quiet current under his skin, he realized something dangerous. This was not desire, it was recognition, and recognition was harder to deny. His fingers slid slightly down her arm, not intentional, just movement. Her breath hitched. "My king," she whispered. Not warning, not refusal, just uncertainty. The twins shifted again. One of them made a soft, sleepy sound. Kurt's eyes flicked to them, then back to her. "This cannot happen," he said. The words were firm, but his hand had not moved away. "I know," she replied softly. His jaw tightened. "My queen, I would never replace her." The words came quickly. He searched her face for doubt. There was none, only respect and something deeper. "Do you think I compare you?" he asked. She hesitated. "I do not know." He stepped closer. "You are nothing like her." The words should have felt dismissive. They did not. "They called you Mama," he said quietly. Her chest tightened. "It was a mistake." "Was it?" She looked at him carefully. "They were reaching for comfort. And you gave it." "Yes." Silence fell again, heavy, but not angry. He finally let go of her arm. The loss of contact felt sharper than she expected. She lowered her gaze. "I should step back," she whispered. "Why?" "Because the palace already hates me." His eyes darkened. "Let them. If they believe there is more between us, there is not." The denial came quickly, too quickly. The twins shifted again. One of them rolled slightly. Arya instinctively stepped toward the cradle. Kurt moved at the same time. Their shoulders brushed. That warmth sparked again. Stronger this time. The twins settled instantly. Kurt felt it clearly now. The heirs were not only attached to her, they were reacting to whatever connected the two of them. He stepped back abruptly. "This is dangerous," he said low. "Yes, for you, for both of us." He stared at her. "You think I cannot control myself." "I think you are grieving," she replied softly. Now the truth hung between them. He did not deny it. "I buried my mate," he said quietly. "I know, and I will not dishonor her memory." "You are not." He looked at her sharply. "How would you know?" "Because grief is not betrayal." The words were simple, but they struck him deeply. He had been fighting himself, punishing himself for feeling anything beyond pain, and here she stood, not demanding, not claiming, just steady. The twins breathed softly, peaceful. He looked at them, then at her. "If this bond grows," he said carefully, "it will change everything." "I did not ask for it. Neither did I." Silence again. She stepped back slightly this time, creating distance. "For now," she said softly, "I will remain what I am." "And what is that?" "Their balance." He studied her. "And mine." The words slipped out before he could stop them. She froze. He did too. Neither spoke, because both had heard it. Outside, wind brushed softly against the palace walls. Inside, the fire burned low. The twins slept on, unaware that something far more complicated than their cries was forming around them. Kurt turned away first. "Rest," he ordered quietly. She nodded. "Yes, my king." But as she lay down in the adjoining chamber that night, she pressed her hand lightly over the silver mark. It glowed faintly, and for the first time it did not feel like a burden. It felt like a beginning, and that terrified her more than any whisper in the palace. 10. The twins stopped crying when she was hurt. Not before, Not during, after. It happened in the afternoon. The sky was bright, too bright. The palace felt restless. Nobles had gathered in the outer halls. The council was whispering again. Now something was shifting under the surface. Arya had been sent to retrieve fresh linens from the lower corridor. Kurt had ordered guards to shadow her, but pride is quiet, and jealousy moves faster than orders. Lady Morwen was waiting, not in the open. In the narrow stone passage near the old storage rooms, Arya turned the corner and stopped. Morwen stood there with two noble she-wolves behind her, all dressed in silk, all smiling too softly. "You walk boldly now," Morwen said. Arya lowered her gaze. "I only follow orders." "You enjoy this attention?" "No." Morwen stepped closer. "You think because the heirs cling to you, you are untouchable." "I do not think that." One of the noble wolves laughed quietly. "The king looks at you differently." Arya's chest tightened. "That is not something I control." Morwen's hand shot out. Oh, she grabbed Arya's arm hard. The silver mark flared beneath the fabric. Morwen's grip tightened instead of loosening. "Show me," she hissed. Arya tried to pull back. "Please!" The second noble shoved her from behind. She stumbled. The basket of linens fell. Before she could regain balance, Morwen pushed her sharply against the stone wall. Her head struck the edge of the arch. Pain exploded. Warmth ran down her temple. For a second, she saw nothing but white. In the nursery above, the first twin froze mid-breath. His tiny body stiffened. Then he screamed, not the desperate cry from before, something worse, raw, anguished. The second twin followed instantly. The sound tore through the wing. Kurt was in the council chamber when it happened. He stood so fast his chair fell behind him. "That is not hunger," he said low. At the elder's eyes widened. "That is pain." Kurt did not wait. He moved, fast. The palace guards barely kept up. Back in the corridor, Arya slid down the wall slowly. Her hand touched her forehead. Blood stained her fingers. Morwen stepped back in shock. "I did not mean—" The second twin's scream echoed faintly down the hall. It was louder than it should have been, as if the sound carried power now. The mark on Arya's wrist burned, bright, visible through the fabric. Morwen saw it clearly this time, silver crescent glowing like moonlight. "What are you?" she whispered. Footsteps thundered down the corridor. Kurt rounded the corner. His scent exploded into the air, dominant, violent. The noble wolf stepped back instantly. He saw Arya on the ground, blood on her temple. Something inside him snapped completely, and the twins' screams were still echoing through the stone halls. He moved to her first, dropped to one knee. His hand hovered near her face. "Who touched you?" Her vision was blurry. "My king," she whispered faintly. "Who?" Morwen stepped forward shakily. "It was an accident." Kurt's head turned slowly. His eyes were not human anymore. "They are screaming," he said quietly. The sound of his son's crying tore through the corridor again. The mark on Arya's wrist flared brighter. She gasped softly. "It hurts," she whispered. The twins cried louder. Kurt understood then. They were not reacting to fear. They were reacting to her pain. He lifted her carefully into his arms. She felt light, too light. "Summon the healer," he ordered coldly. Morwen stepped back further. "You cannot blame—" Kurt stood, still holding Arya. "Ha! Take her!" he ordered the guards. The noble she-wolves were seized immediately. Morwen struggled. "You are choosing a maid over blood." Kurt's voice dropped lower than anyone had ever heard it. "She is the reason my heirs live." He did not look back. He carried Arya through the halls himself. Servants froze. Whispers died instantly. The twins' cries grew louder as he approached the nursery. The moment he entered the room, the air felt electric. Both twins were red-faced, tears streaming, arms thrashing. The nurse could barely hold them. Kurt moved toward the bed and laid Arya down gently. Her head spun, her breathing shallow. The mark on her wrist pulsed, bright silver. The twins screamed harder. Kurt turned to the healer who had just arrived. "Fix her." The healer worked quickly, cleaning the wound, pressing cloth to her temple. Aria winced. The twins screamed as if they felt every touch. Kurt stepped closer to the cradle. He lifted one twin into his arm. The baby's tiny hand grabbed his collar desperately, still crying, still in pain. Aria forced her eyes open. "I am here," she whispered weakly. The sound was soft, but the effect was immediate. Both twins froze. Their cries cut off mid-breath. Silence crashed down. The healer paused. The nurse gasped. The mark on Aria's wrist dimmed slowly. The twins stared at her, tears still wet on their cheeks. Kurt looked between them. Understanding settled heavily. "They feel you," he said quietly. Aria nodded faintly. "Yes." He moved closer to her bedside. The twin in his arms leaned toward her, reaching. Kurt placed the baby gently against her uninjured shoulder. The twin sighed. The second one was placed beside him, and both pressed against her. Within seconds, they were calm, breathing steady, alive. Kurt looked at the healer. "She is not to be left alone." "Yes, my king." He looked toward the door. "Bring Morwen." Minutes later, Morwen was forced into the nursery. She saw the scene. Aria pale on the bed. The twins curled into her, peaceful again, the mark faintly glowing. Morwen swallowed. Kurt stood in front of her. "You endangered my heirs." "I touched a maid." "You broke the balance." Silence. His voice dropped to something lethal. "If she dies, they will break." Morwen's composure finally cracked. "You would punish noble blood for her." "I will punish anyone who threatens stability." The elder stepped in quietly. "My king, exile would be wiser." Kurt did not hesitate. "Exile her." Morwen gasped. "You cannot." "I just did." Guards dragged her away, and her protests echoed down the hall. The nursery remained silent. The twins slept again. Aria drifted in and out of awareness. Kurt stood beside her bed long after everyone left. He looked at the small wound on her temple, at how fragile she seemed, at how powerful she truly was. "You nearly tore this kingdom apart without meaning to," he said softly. Her eyes fluttered open slightly. "I did not want—" "I know." He reached out, brushed his fingers gently against her uninjured hand. The warmth surged again, stronger now, not hidden. The twins stirred but did not cry. They simply breathed. Steady. Kurt exhaled slowly. "This is no longer about calming them," he said quietly. She looked at him weakly. "Then what is it about?" He did not answer immediately, because the truth had become impossible to ignore. As it was not only the heirs who were tied to her pain, it was him too, and that realization was far more dangerous than any noble jealousy. 11. The elders finally spoke the forbidden truth, not in whispers, not in corners, in the council chamber, where old stone remembered older blood. Aria was not present. She was still resting in the royal wing. The wound on her temple had healed faster than expected. Too fast, the healer had said. Unnatural. The twins had not left her side, not even for a moment. Kurt stood at the head of the long stone table. The council sat in silence. No one pretended anymore. They had all seen the mark glow. They had all heard the heirs scream when she was hurt, and they had all seen the silence return when she whispered. The elder cleared his throat. "It is confirmed." Kurt did not blink. Say it clearly." "She carries the lunar balancing blood." The words echoed through the chamber. One of the younger council wolves shifted uneasily. "That bloodline was believed extinct." "It was hidden," the elder corrected, "after the Great War." Kurt's jaw tightened. "Explain." The elder folded his hands slowly. "Generations ago, when alpha lines grew too dominant, too unstable, the moon priests created balance." "Created," Kurt repeated coldly. "They paired strong alpha blood with a rare omega line that could absorb excess dominance." "Absorb chaos," another council member muttered. "Yes," the elder nodded. "Without overpowering it, without competing." Kurt's eyes darkened slightly. And if that Omega is harmed, the imbalance returns. The memory of his sons screaming like something was tearing them apart flashed through his mind. If she dies, Kurt asked quietly, what happens? The elder did not soften his answer. They will break. Silence fell heavily across the room. One of the council wolves spoke. Then she must be claimed formally. Kurt's gaze snapped toward him. Explain. If her blood stabilizes the heirs, she is no longer a servant. She becomes part of the royal structure. Through what? Through bond. The word felt sharp. Kurt stood slowly. You are suggesting I take another mate. It would secure the line. My queen is barely in her grave. We speak of survival, not romance. Kurt's eyes flashed dangerously. You presume much. The elder raised a hand slightly. No one questions your loyalty to your queen. But the realm cannot risk instability. Kurt turned away from the table. His mind raced. Arya did not ask for this. And she did not even want attention. And now they were discussing her like strategy. Is it only through mating, Kurt asked finally, that her blood binds to the heirs? The elder hesitated. No. Then what? Recognition. The chamber grew still again. Recognition of what? That she is not low rank, that she carries sacred blood. Kurt thought of the way nobles looked at her, the way they whispered, the way Morwen had dared touch her. If I elevate her publicly, he said slowly, the nobles will revolt. Some will, the elder admitted, but the heirs come first. Kurt exhaled slowly. His heart felt heavier than it had in years. He had buried love once. He had buried softness. And now fate was forcing him to stand at a crossroad he never wanted. Back in the nursery, Arya sat near the cradle. The twins were awake. As they were stronger every day, too strong for their age, one of them tried to stand using the edge of the cradle. She caught him gently. You are too fast, she whispered softly. He laughed, a small, bright sound. The second twin reached for her wrist. His tiny fingers pushed her sleeve up slightly. The silver crescent shimmered faintly. She quickly pulled the fabric down. You must stay hidden, she murmured. But deep down, she knew. It was too late. Footsteps approached. She turned. Kurt entered alone. He looked different. Not angry, not cold. Resolved. She stood immediately. My king. He closed the door behind him. We need to speak. Her stomach tightened. Have I done something wrong? No. He stepped closer. The twins watched him curiously. He looked at them first, then at her. The elders have confirmed your bloodline. She swallowed. So it is true. Yes. What does that mean? It means you are not low. She blinked. I am still an Omega. You are a lunar Omega. The words felt heavier, older. She did not know how to carry them. I do not want power, she whispered quickly. I know. I do not want the throne. I know. She looked at him carefully. Then what will happen? He did not answer immediately. He studied her face. You will be recognized. Her breath caught. In what way? As sacred to the heirs. Her hands trembled slightly. The nobles will hate me more. Yes. And you. His gaze held hers steadily. I will protect you. Silence. The twins crawled toward him this time. He crouched slightly. The first twin grabbed his finger. The second leaned against his knee. They did not cry. They did not hesitate. They trusted him more now, because she was there. Kurt felt it clearly. The balance was not only between her and the heirs. It was forming a triangle, fragile, powerful. If I am recognized, she asked softly, what does that make me? He held her gaze. Essential. The word hit deeper than title. She looked down. I was never essential before. His voice softened slightly. You were hidden. She lifted her eyes again. And now? Now you are seen." The air felt charged, not romantic, not yet, but heavy with truth. The twins crawled between them, small hands reaching, claiming space. Kurt stood slowly. "There will be a gathering," he said. "The council and the nobles." Her heart raced. "They will look at me differently." "Yes." "Like threat." "Yes." She swallowed. "And you." He did not hesitate this time. "I will stand beside you." The words settled deep inside her chest. For the first time, fear did not completely drown her. The twins laughed softly, unaware of politics, unaware of bloodlines. They only knew that when she was near, the world felt safe. Kurt watched her carefully. He had buried his heart once, but the more truth unfolded, the more he realized something dangerous. This was not random fate. It was alignment. And if the moon itself had hidden her bloodline for generations, then perhaps she had not been placed in his kingdom by accident. Perhaps she had been placed for him. 12. The king had to choose between pride and destiny does not wait politely. The great hall was filled. Nobles stood in rows along the stone walls. Their silks shimmered under torchlight. Their scents were strong, controlled, political. The council sat near the raised platform. Kurt stood at the center, straight, still, unshaken. Arya stood 3 steps behind him. Not beside him. Not yet. Her hands were folded quietly in front of her, her head lowered slightly. The twins were not present. They had grown restless when she left, but calmer when Kurt promised to return quickly. Whispers moved through the hall like wind. "That is her, the maid, the one with the mark. She does not look powerful." Kurt lifted his hand. Silence fell instantly. "You are gathered because there will be no more whispers," he said calmly. His voice carried easily. "Speak clearly," someone muttered from the side. Kurt's eyes shifted toward the sound. The wolf lowered his head immediately. "The heirs are stable," Kurt continued, "because of her." He did not turn toward Arya yet. He let the words hang. And the noble stepped forward slightly. "Because of witchcraft." The hall stirred. Arya felt her heart pound. Kurt's voice dropped lower. "Choose your next word carefully." Silence returned. The elder stood slowly. "It is not witchcraft. It is blood." Murmurs again. "Ancient lunar blood," the elder continued, "hidden for generations." All eyes shifted toward Arya now. She felt it like weight on her skin. She did not look up. Kurt finally turned toward her. "Step forward." Her feet felt heavy, but she obeyed. She stepped beside him now. The hall felt colder. "Show them," he said quietly. Her breath caught. Slowly, with trembling fingers, she pulled her sleeve back. The silver crescent shimmered faintly under torchlight. Gasps filled the hall. One noble stepped back. "It is true." Another frowned. "This changes nothing. And she is still an Omega." Kurt's gaze hardened. "She is the reason my sons do not break." Silence. A different noble spoke carefully. "If her blood binds the heirs, then she is tied to the throne." "Yes," Kurt replied. "And what is her position?" the noble pressed. There it was, the real question. Servant, sacred, mate, threat. Kurt felt the weight of every stare. He could choose pride, keep her low, avoid scandal, avoid questions. Or he could choose destiny, protect the balance, protect the heirs, protect her. Arya kept her gaze lowered. She did not want to hear the answer, because whatever he said would change everything. "She will be recognized," Kurt said slowly. The hall held its breath. "As guardian of the heirs." The title echoed. Not Luna, not mate, not servant, something new. The nobles looked at one another, some relieved, some displeased. One spoke sharply. "A guardian holds influence." "Yes," Kurt replied calmly. "She stands near the throne." "Yes." "She has no noble blood." "She has sacred blood." Silence again. The elder nodded slightly. "It is enough." But not everyone agreed. A tall noble stepped forward. And when the heirs grow older, when they rule, will she still stand between them and their father? The question cut deeper than expected. Arya felt the tension spike. Kurt did not look away. If she stands between chaos and my sons, then yes. The words were final, clear, a challenge. No one spoke after that. The decision had been made. The hall slowly lowered their heads, not in full acceptance, but in submission. Arya felt dizzy. Guardian, not servant, not Luna, something in between. Kurt turned toward her once more. You are under royal protection from this day forward. Her throat felt tight. Yes, my king. He lowered his voice so only she could hear. You are not alone in this. She glanced at him quickly, for the first time in front of the nobles. Their eyes met, not as king and servant, as two people standing inside something larger than both of them. The gathering ended. Nobles left in clusters, whispers renewed. Guardian of the heirs, sacred blood. The king protects her openly. When the hall emptied, Arya felt her knees weaken. Kurt noticed immediately. He stepped closer. You are steady, he said quietly. I do not feel steady. You stood. She gave a small breath that almost sounded like a laugh. I did not fall. That is enough. Footsteps rushed toward them. A guard bowed quickly. My king. The heirs are restless. Kurt's eyes darkened slightly. Bring her. Arya's chest tightened. She moved without hesitation. They walked quickly back toward the nursery. Before they even reached the door, the twins' cries echoed down the corridor. Not violent, but distressed. The moment Arya stepped inside, both twins turned toward her. The crying cut short, like it had been sliced in half. The nurse exhaled shakily. They would not come. Arya moved to them. The twins reached up instantly, clinging. Kurt stood in the doorway, watching. They had chosen, not out of manipulation, not out of ambition, out of need. He understood now. This was not about pride. It was about alignment. And if destiny had woven her blood into his sons, then denying it would only break them. He stepped inside. The twins looked at him too. No fear, no rejection. And just quiet, because she stood between them, not as wall, as bridge. Kurt exhaled slowly. He had chosen. Not her as mate. Not yet. But he had chosen her place beside the heirs, and that choice had shifted the foundation of the kingdom. Outside, resistance would grow. Inside, something steadier was forming. And for the first time since his queen's death, Kurt did not feel like he was fighting fate. He felt like he was finally standing where he was meant to. 13. The day she tried to leave, the sky was too quiet. No storm, no warning, just still air that felt wrong. Arya had not slept much the night before. The whispers in the palace had grown sharper, the looks colder. Even with her new title, she felt heavier than before. Guardian of the heirs. It sounded strong, but it also sounded like a target. She sat beside the cradle at dawn. The twins were awake, watching her closely. Their eyes followed every movement now. They were stronger each day, faster. Their wolves stirred under their small skin more often than normal. Too often. She touched the edge of the cradle softly. If I stay, she whispered to them, the palace will tear itself apart. One twin grabbed her finger. The other pushed himself up, wobbling. She smiled faintly. You deserve peace. Footsteps echoed down the hall. Kurt was not there yet. He had been called early to deal with border disputes. She knew he would return by midday. That was why she chose morning. She stood slowly. Her small bundle was already hidden beneath the bed. Just a few clothes. Nothing else. She did not belong to silk or gold. She belonged to quiet. She lifted the first twin into her arms, pressed her forehead gently to his. You are strong, she whispered. The second twin whined softly. She placed them both back into the cradle. They sensed something. Their small bodies grew tense. She stepped back once, then again. The first twin's face twisted. A soft sound escaped him. Shh, she murmured. Her chest already hurt. She forced herself toward the door. The moment her hand touched the handle, the first cry broke out. Sharp, sudden. The second twin followed instantly, not normal crying, not hunger, fear. Her heart shattered. She forced the door open and stepped into the corridor. The crying grew louder, not from distance, from pain. Inside the nursery, the twins thrashed violently. Their small hands clawed at the cradle bars. The nurse panicked. "They are burning up," she gasped. Their skin felt too warm, their tiny bodies trembling. Down the hall, Arya stopped mid-step. Her chest felt like it was tearing apart. The silver mark on her wrist flared bright, brighter than ever before. She dropped her small bundle. Back in the council chamber, Kurt stiffened suddenly. He felt it, not through bond, through instinct. His sons. Something was wrong. He stood abruptly. "The heirs," he said low. He did not wait for permission. He moved, fast. In the nursery, chaos had returned. The twins' eyes flashed silver, for a second, too early. They were trying to shift. Impossible. They were far too young. The nurse screamed, "They cannot control it!" Their cries were raw, painful. Arya reached the door and froze at the sight. Her heart stopped. "No," she whispered. She rushed forward. The moment she crossed the threshold, the first twin gasped. His small body jerked once. Then the glow in his eyes faded. The second twin collapsed into the cradle, still crying, but weaker. Arya gathered them both into her arms. "I am here," she breathed desperately. The silver mark burned under her skin. The heat spread from her wrist to her chest, then outward. The twins' trembling slowed. Their cries softened. Kurt burst into the room seconds later. He saw them in her arms. He saw the fading glow. And something inside him broke open completely. "What were they doing?" he demanded. The nurse was shaking. "They were shifting. My king. It was starting." Impossible. Too early. Too dangerous. Kurt looked at Arya. Her face was pale. Tears streamed silently down her cheeks. "I tried to leave," she whispered. Silence hit the room like a blow. "You what?" "I thought if I went away, the palace would calm." The twins clung to her tightly, as if afraid she would vanish again. Kurt stepped closer. His voice was low. "You thought leaving would protect them." "Yes, and instead, you nearly killed them." The words were harsh, but his eyes were not cruel. They were terrified. She looked down at the twins. "I did not know it would be this strong." He exhaled slowly. "You are not just calming them." "What am I doing?" "You are anchoring them." The realization settled heavy. Without her, their wolves surged uncontrollably. Too much alpha blood, too much power, unbalanced. Kurt stepped even closer. "You will never leave without telling me." "I did not want to burden you." "You are not a burden." His voice cracked slightly on the last word. She looked up at him. Really looked. "You already lost one mate," she whispered. "I will not be the reason you lose your sons." He froze. The twins' breathing steadied now. They pressed against her chest like they belonged there. Kurt reached out. His hand covered hers where it rested on one small back. The warmth surged again, stronger, clearer. The twins sighed at the same time. He understood then. It was not just bloodline, it was alignment. Her leaving did not just remove comfort, it removed stability, and perhaps something inside him too. "You will not run from this," he said quietly. She nodded slowly. "I will not." He studied her face. "You think you are protecting them by leaving?" "Yes." "You protect them by staying." The words settled deep. She closed her eyes briefly, then opened them again. "I will stay." The twins were asleep again, exhausted, safe. Kurt did not remove his hand, not immediately. "I cannot lose another thing that holds my world together," he admitted quietly. The words were not meant to be spoken aloud, but they were. Her breath caught. "I am not her," she said softly. "I know." Silence stretched, heavy, but honest. Outside the nursery, servants whispered about the attempted early shift. about the twins' silver eyes, about the way the guardian returned and everything stopped. Inside, Kurt looked at Arya and understood something fully for the first time. This was no longer about choosing pride or destiny. It was about survival. And survival meant one thing. She was no longer allowed to disappear. Not from the palace, not from his sons, and maybe not from him either. 14. The bond that should never exist does not ask permission. It forms in silence. It grows in denial. And then one day, it refuses to hide. Yet the twins were stronger now, too strong. Their wolves stirred more often, their instincts sharper. They reacted not only to her pain anymore, they reacted to distance, to tension, to unspoken things. Arya stood near the balcony doors in the royal wing. Night air drifted in softly. She had stopped trying to leave, but something inside her still felt restless. Not fear, not regret. Awareness. Behind her, the twins slept peacefully. Together, curled close. Kurt entered quietly. He did not announce himself. He no longer needed to. She felt him. Before he spoke. "You are thinking too loudly," he said. She turned slowly. "My king." "You are not a servant anymore." She lowered her gaze. "I am still beneath you." The words came out softly. He stepped closer. "Do not say that." "It is true." "No." His voice was firm, not angry, certain. And silence stretched between them. The air felt different tonight. Charged. Not with danger, with inevitability. "You tried to leave," he said quietly. "Yes." "And it nearly destroyed them." "Yes." He stepped closer again, close enough that the space between them felt thin. "You are bound to them." "I know." "And through them," he continued slowly, "you are bound to me." Her breath caught. "That is not how bonds work." "Not the old ones." She blinked. "What do you mean?" He looked toward the sleeping twins. "When you are hurt, they break." "Yes." "When you leave, they lose control." "Yes." "And when I touch you, they settle deeper." Silence. Her heart pounded. "You have felt it too," he said. She did not answer. Because she had. Every time his skin brushed hers, every time their eyes held too long, there was something moving. Just not the sharp pull of fate mates, not the overpowering scent of destiny. Something quieter, stronger. Balance. "You are not my chosen mate," he said low. "I know. But when you stand near me, my wolf does not resist." Her pulse quickened. "And when I stand near you," she whispered, "I do not feel small." The honesty of it made the air heavier. He stepped closer again, until only a breath separated them. "This should not exist," he said. "No. You were meant for balance." "Yes. Not for me." Her voice trembled slightly. And yet, the twins shifted softly in their sleep. Neither cried, neither stirred in distress. They were calm, because both anchors were in the room. Kurt understood it now. The elders had only seen part of the truth. Her blood stabilized the heirs, but her presence stabilized him, and his presence steadied her power. And it was not a traditional mate bond. It was older, quieter, built on alignment instead of heat. He reached out slowly, this time not hesitating. His hand cupped her face gently. Her eyes widened. The warmth surged instantly. Strong, clear, not chaotic. The twins sighed in their sleep, as if confirming something. Arya's hand lifted, rested against his chest. She felt his heartbeat, strong, steady. "You are still grieving," she whispered. "Yes. I will not replace her." "You do not." The words were firm, certain. "You are not her shadow." Tears filled her eyes, not from sadness, from something deeper. He leaned his forehead against hers. Careful, controlled. "This bond," he said softly, "is not about passion." "No," It is about balance. Yes. And balance does not mean weakness. Her fingers tightened slightly against his chest. What does it mean? It means we are stronger together. Silence wrapped around them. The palace was quiet. The night deep. He lifted his head slightly, looked into her eyes fully. Arya. It was the first time he said her name like that. Not as king, as man. Her breath shook. Yes. If this continues, it will change everything. Yes. He exhaled slowly. Then let it. The words settled heavy. Final. She did not pull away. She did not run. Instead, she stepped closer, closing the last inch of distance. He did not claim her with dominance. He did not command her. He simply pressed his lips gently against hers. Soft, slow, no urgency, no fire, just confirmation. The warmth spread through her instantly. The silver mark beneath her sleeve glowed faintly. The twins stirred once, then settled deeper into sleep. What the kiss did not feel like betrayal. It did not feel like replacing the past. It felt like alignment finally accepting itself. When he pulled back, his eyes were steady. "This will not be hidden," he said. Her heart skipped. "You would make it public." Yes. The word carried weight. The kingdom would erupt. The nobles would rage. But he did not look uncertain. "I will not let them tear you apart," he continued, "and the queen's memory. She will always be honored." His voice did not shake. "But the future cannot remain frozen." Silence. Arya looked toward the sleeping twins, then back at him. "If this is destiny," she whispered, "it chose strangely." He almost smiled. Destiny rarely asks our preference. Outside, clouds moved slowly across the moon. Inside, something ancient and forbidden had finally taken form, not out of obsession, not out of rebellion, but out of need. The bond that should never exist had stopped hiding, and neither of them stepped away from it. 15. The kingdom that once rejected her bowed first, not because they wanted to, because they had to. The morning of the public claim was colder than usual. The courtyard was filled. Nobles, warriors, elders, servants who once whispered now stood in silence. The twins were carried forward first, stronger now, older by weeks, but changed. Their eyes were steady, their wolves quiet, balanced. Arya stood behind them, not hidden, not lowered. Her head was still slightly bowed out of habit, but her shoulders were no longer small. Kurt stood beside her, not in front, not shielding, beside. The elder stepped forward. "Today the throne acknowledges sacred blood." Murmurs moved through the crowd. Kurt lifted his hand, and silence followed immediately. "My heirs live because of her," he said clearly. No hesitation, no softening. "They grow stable because of her." All eyes shifted to Arya. She felt the weight, but this time she did not shrink. "She was born hidden," Kurt continued, "but she will not remain unseen." The silver crescent on her wrist shimmered faintly in the morning light. Gasps followed. No one denied it now. No one dared. The elder bowed his head first, not deeply, but enough. Then one noble, then another. It was not love. It was recognition. Arya felt her throat tighten. She had scrubbed these floors once, lowered her gaze in these halls. Now those same wolves lowered theirs first. The twins crawled toward her feet. One grabbed the edge of her dress. The other reached up toward Kurt. They stood between them, small, powerful, living proof. Kurt looked at her, then at the crowd. "Arya," he said, "not Guardian, not Omega. Her name." She stepped forward fully now. He reached for her hand, publicly, without hesitation. A murmur swept the courtyard, but no one spoke against it. "If my heirs are bound to her blood," he said calmly, "then she stands bound to this throne." The words were clear, final. Arya felt the warmth surge again when his hand closed around hers, stronger now, not hidden. The twins laughed softly. The sound echoed bright against stone. Kurt turned slightly toward her. This kingdom will not divide what the moon has aligned. Silence. Then the elder spoke. The balance is recognized. One by one, the nobles lowered themselves, knees touching stone. It was not devotion, but it was submission. Arya's chest felt tight, not from fear, from disbelief, as she had been rejected, ignored, whispered about. Now the same wolves bowed. The twins reached for her at the same time. She bent and lifted them both. They clung to her, peaceful, secure. Kurt stepped closer, his voice lowered enough that only she could hear. "You are no longer alone in this." She looked at him. "I never thought I would stand here." "Neither did I." A faint smile touched his mouth. Not cold, not sharp. Real. Time moved forward. Days turned into weeks. The palace shifted slowly. Some nobles still resisted. Some still whispered. But the heirs did not scream anymore. They laughed. They grew. They trained earlier than expected. Their wolves strong, controlled, balanced. And when they stumbled, when frustration rose, when dominance flared too early, Arya's presence steadied them, not with force, with calm. Kurt changed too, not softer, still powerful, still feared, but no longer hollow. He walked with less tension in his shoulders. He slept without waking to phantom cries. He stood beside her in public without hesitation, and in private, he no longer denied the bond. One evening, as the twins slept peacefully in their shared chamber, Arya sat by the window. The moonlight touched her wrist. The silver crescent glowed softly. Kurt stepped behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist, not possessive, protective. "You once tried to leave," he said quietly. "Yes." "You will not try again?" She shook her head. "No." He rested his chin lightly against her shoulder. "They do not only need you." She turned her head slightly. "And you?" The admission was simple, not dramatic. True, he did not deny it. The twins shifted in their sleep, then stilled, peaceful, alive. Arya looked at them. "They were never cursed," she whispered. "No. They were unbalanced." "Yes. And so were we." He exhaled slowly. "Perhaps." The kingdom outside still held pride, still held politics, still held danger. But inside these walls, something had changed permanently. The rejected Omega Maid, the crying heirs, the grieving king. None of them remained what they were. Arya rested her head lightly against his chest, the warmth between them steady now. Not wild, not forbidden, claimed. The twins breathed softly in their sleep. No screaming, no chaos, just balance. And the kingdom that once rejected her learned something it had forgotten. Sometimes the weakest bloodline is not weak at all. Sometimes it is the one that keeps everything from breaking.